Hello and welcome to Reboot. I'm Rebecca Campbell. I'll be hosting this event. This is a special event for B2B businesses on B2B marketing and sales. So before we start, I just want to acknowledge the Gadigal people, the traditional owners of the lands in which much of us are meeting on today, and their owners past and present. And because we are meeting online and lots of us are in all different places, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we're all meeting on today, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are participating in this meeting. So in a moment, I'll be introducing Lisa Vitaris, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Tyro, and Andrew McCarthy, who is the Global Head of Sales at Freelancer.com. We were going to have Sarah Tang on this event today, but she unfortunately had a personal emergency. And so we're very lucky to have Andrew, and he's put together a great presentation I'm sure you're going to get heaps of value out of. So if you are new to Reboot, so Reboot is a program that has been established by the City of Sydney in response to a survey that was sent out to businesses in the city at the height of the pandemic. And the survey asked businesses, what skills do you need to bounce back better as a result of COVID in 2021? And so we have run, this is now our 12th event out of a series of 18, and the last in this sprint of 6 events. So we're going to share on the chat a link to the videos of all the other events. So last November, we ran 6 events focused on marketing. So we had the founders of Koala, Pedestrian TV, TEDx Sydney, Vino Mofo, and we ran some great events on content marketing, personal branding, digital acquisition. So please check out those videos. And this series of 6, we have been focusing more on leaderships and strategy. So we had the global CEO of Xero, Steve Vamos, a couple of weeks ago. Last week, we ran a special event on founder mental health and on emotional resilience and leadership in uncertain times. And I know I have made heaps of changes to my week as a result of what I learned at that event. So I really recommend checking out that one. We'll share a link to that event, the video from that event in the chat as well now. Just the background of the B2B event is at lots of the marketing events we ran last year, we kept getting asked questions in the chat of, how does this relate to businesses where their customers are businesses? Do the same rules apply? What are the tactics that I should be using as a business that has business customers? And so we thought today we'd put together a special event where we focused on, how to grow businesses, how to grow your business if businesses are your customers. So we have 2 awesome speakers. So in a moment, I'm going to introduce Lisa Vitaris to give her presentation. But first, we're going to hear from our Lord Mayor, Clive Moore.
Thank you, Rebecca, and hello, everyone. Welcome to our Reboot seminars for 2021. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of our land, part of the oldest living culture on earth, and I pay my respects to their elders. I also acknowledge the people of the many nations who live in our city. And I'd also like to welcome the many local experts participating in the Reboot series and sharing their knowledge with our small businesses and startup community. Last year, at the height of the pandemic, the city surveyed our business community to learn what you need to survive and to recover from the damage brought about by COVID. In response to what you told us, we launched the Reboots webinars to equip you with the skills and strategies that will help you thrive in these challenging times. The first series was delivered between October and November last year, with more than 2,800 businesses registered. And I am sure that you will benefit equally from this new series. So thank you for your interest in attending today. And I'll leave you with Rebecca and our local experts to advise you on how to strategize and plan for growth in this ever-changing economic environment.
Now I'm super excited to introduce Lisa Vitaris, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Tyro, a payments provider for business. I'm sure everyone here will have heard of Tyro. So Lisa has been at Tyro for the past 4 years. Prior to that, she was working in branding, particularly in rebrand brands, and also in high growth acquisition for business. So she is a scholar of the 2020 Marketing Academy, and I'm going to hand to Lisa now to share her presentation. We've asked Lisa to speak specifically on marketing for business customers, and then we've asked Andrew to speak on the process of really selling sales to business customers. And then we've got 2 great businesses that we're going to introduce you to from the City of Sydney who are going to put their questions to the experts as well. So Lisa, I'll hand to you for your presentation.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. I hope everyone is hanging in there after what has been a bit of a crazy year with COVID, all of the extreme weather events. I shouldn't be laughing. They're really tragic. And I hope none of you have been too badly affected. It has been a really tumultuous time for all businesses out there, as we have definitely seen at Tyro. So I'm just going to share, and I hope this now works. Hopefully no one's making faces because I can't see you if you are. Just kidding. So I come from Tyro. So I have been here for 4 years, as Rebecca said. And just to let you know a little bit about Tyro, I do love the fact that you have said that everybody probably knows us. Thank you. That's very flattering. But more than likely, everybody probably doesn't. Hopefully, though, in this space, because we do cater towards business customers and typically the smaller to medium-sized business customers. Saying that, we are actually Australia's largest EFTPOS provider outside of the big four banks, which not many people know about. So I guess we're a real challenger brand. We do EFTPOS, e-commerce, banking and lending for Aussie businesses. And we also cater to the health industry as well with our Medicare and private health fund claiming and rebating services. One of our big points of difference is our connections to over 300 point of sale and practice management systems. And we also integrate with Xero from an accounting perspective, which really helps small businesses save time knowing that all their systems are connecting together with their POS, with their accounting software and so on. Another thing a lot of people don't know is that we've been around since 2003, which is a really, really long time. We've just started to scale up fairly recently. And we've got now just over 36,000 customers, some of which are there below. So my role is quite varied. I mostly manage the Tyro brand. So obviously from a branding perspective, positioning in market, so what we want to be known for is absolutely critical. From our perspective, what we're focusing on at the moment, which we feel is really relevant in this time, is the fact that we're able to deliver innovative payments and banking products to businesses, which will help them stay ahead of change. And obviously in this environment, there's tons and tons of change going on. Knowing that we're a company that does have industry first quite a lot of the time. Least cost routing was one of the industry firsts that we had, a certain implementation of Alipay as well that we've done in the past. We are there to support businesses to help them stay ahead of change. So that's one of the messages that we're trying to get across in all of our marketing as of late. Consistency is also super important as well. So just making sure that we say the same thing, that we look the same across all of our channels. Customer growth is a really big one as well. So we have really ambitious growth targets. So a lot of my work does involve all of the different marketing channels, but particularly in that space, a lot of digital acquisition through Google and Facebook, which I'll be talking about. I look after the Tyro marketing team as well. So just making sure that they're all performing to their optimum levels. And one thing which you might not think about necessarily in a marketing role is risk and compliance. So evidently just making sure that we do the right thing, that we're saying the right things. Evidently we're a bank. So we're a business bank, business only bank, but banks do have quite a few regulations. So making sure that we make the right claims and that we don't mislead anybody is very important and something that I'm particularly passionate about. I am a part of Tyro's executive leadership team. So what that means is I sit on the team that makes management decisions across the entire business and various committees, including pricing committees and again, risk committees. And one of the things which I did recently, which I wasn't very happy about, was starring in our own TV ad, not by choice. I think they were desperate and they needed to put me in there at the last minute, although my mum is very proud of that. So as you can see, lots of different things that I do on a day-to-day basis. In terms of our approach to B2B marketing, so Rebecca briefly mentioned, we do tend to focus on the retail, hospitality and health businesses. We are also in services, which is a fairly recent thing, and we're looking to expand into other industries as well in the not too distant future. The main objectives that we have, and hopefully a lot of you are aware of Tyro, but like I said, more often than not, a lot of businesses aren't aware of Tyro because we haven't necessarily been talking to the market that much in our past history since 2003. Aside from the last few years. So one of our main objectives is really to let businesses know who we are, what we do, and what potential benefits we can deliver to them. The other main objective, as I mentioned before, is just delivering customer growth. So making sure that we are letting people know who we are, but also getting them to choose Tyro over the other solutions that are out there in market. The main channels that we use, so TV, we're currently on free-to-air TV, which is the first time that we've ever been on there, which is great, and Foxtel as well, which does help us get the exposure of our message to a larger audience. Evidently, there is some wastage in TV, but for the most part, we find that it does deliver. We have ways of measuring that, which is really exciting, not normally possible with TV advertising. Radio works really well for us as well, and digital, for the most part, we're on Google and Facebook. So we'll go into a bit more detail about those channels. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this, but this is something that is pretty important, I would say, and a big piece of theory that we see quite commonly in marketing. And it's from Les Binet and Peter Field, who are brand gurus. And essentially what they say is, I think a lot of the time, it is really easy to say, let's just put more money into Google and Facebook. And I do believe in those channels. And I think they're very, very important for growth, definitely. But let's just put money into those channels and let's just do sales campaigns and offers and so on, and we'll get the growth that we need, which is true. You will get the growth that you need. But the other layer that we need to put on top of that is actually brand building. So if we don't invest in the brand, and it can sound all fluffy, it can sound like you're just throwing money away. You put the money out there on TV, and then how do you actually know what it's going to deliver? It is something that you do need to trust in, but know that there is theory behind it. Very substantial theory over a period of about 20 years, and essentially building your brand, investing in it. Yes, it will take time, but essentially, as you can see there from the red line, it will deliver that long-term sales growth if you do both of those things. So it's not to say stop doing sales activation, but it's to say that you need to introduce some long-term brand building once you're doing the sales activation as well. It's one of the critical things to remember. The marketing funnel is another one that we pay attention to in marketing across all of the jobs that I've been in to date. And hopefully some of you have seen this before. Excuse my art direction is not good, hence why I'm not actually a creative. But I didn't want to steal someone else's diagram either. But essentially, it's just a simple funnel. It's just for just to give you an idea of what it is. But essentially, it's just saying that for customers, whether they're consumers or whether they're businesses, they do tend to go through a series of steps to actually consume your product. And it depends on the type of product. Obviously, some products can be a much quicker process, but others are more involved. What I've typically found is that these are the main steps, which is essentially customers being aware of you, then actually considering why would I want to choose you, then inquiring, so whether that's via a web form or some other form, calling, for example, and then potentially there's an application, if there's an application process or there's that kind of commitment, and then they become a customer. What we want to do is essentially get data to be able to measure each of those phases. And I guess for the top phases of the funnel, it is a bit harder. It's probably going to be more via surveys to the market, which you can cheaply do via certain providers. And the bottom stages of the funnel are going to be more through your own data. So probably through Google Analytics or whatever analytics functions you have, if you have them set up. Then the main thing to do is really look at where are the drop-offs. So if you have heaps of people aware of you, but no one is actually considering you, then that's probably going to be a really big focus for you, because essentially otherwise you're just wasting money trying to drive awareness, whereas no one's actually coming through towards being your customer. Equally, it could be you need to focus on driving awareness because no one's aware of you. So what I would say is if you can actually get that data for the marketing funnel, it'll hold you in good stead. And what I mean by no leaky buckets there is essentially you just want to make sure that you're not getting heaps of people in one particular phase and then having a massive drop off to the next phase. So it'll be up to you to look at the data and see which is the best phase that I should be investing my money in. Sometimes you'll need to look at a whole bunch of different tactics at all the different phases, which becomes really complicated. But which is the one best thing that I can actually invest in for the time being. So what's working for us? So digital marketing insights, I guess, is just a broad point. But essentially, it is changing really rapidly. So, and I know, it is hard to have time for all of this, particularly when you're running a business. Even for us working in marketing, it's really kind of challenging to keep up with all the new developments. But keeping up with all the new developments actually means that you can stay in front of everything and stay one step ahead. So that's definitely important. One of the things that we do a lot of is test and learn. So hopefully some of you have heard that before, but it's essentially just trying different things. So trying version A of one creative message versus trying version B, trying one particular media channel, such as Facebook versus Google could be another one. So just starting off really simply, but making sure that you always put some money aside to do test and learn, we find very effective. And tracking is another one. So it does start to get a bit technical there, but just making sure that you are tracking the right metrics. So essentially, if you are, for example, wanting to achieve, get more people to your website, making sure that you track on website visits. But if it's more that you want someone to fill out a form on your website, making sure that you track on those form fills, which might be actually more important in trying to get the results that you're after. Working closely with our sales team. So we have quite a large sales team at Tyro. We do need to work super closely with them to make sure that all of our marketing and sales efforts are in sync. If we do a big campaign and don't tell them about it, that wouldn't work very well. They wouldn't know what to say on the phones. Equally, they are talking to our prospects and our customers regularly, so we're able to get insights from them and feed that back into our marketing campaigns. So very close relationship, works extremely well. And lastly, scalable solutions. So we don't have tons of people in our company, unfortunately, in our marketing team. We do everything in-house. So what we need to do is, if we want to scale, we need to be able to take solutions that can scale. So essentially doing something that involves the least effort but makes the most amount of difference and that can be easily replicated. What's not necessarily working that well, or what our learnings are. So it's not that they're not working, it's just how we actually do these things that we've taken away, which I thought it was relevant to share. So from an events perspective, we had quite a lot of success with in-person events. When we changed them into virtual events, obviously with the onset of COVID, we did find that it was a little bit difficult to get more engagement in these events. Now that events are coming back in person, we are reinvesting more into events and we're seeing a lot of interest pick back up. But what we've also decided to do is invest in less events but better quality and do them better. And also just making sure that we look at the return on investment for the events. So events can be quite costly in person if you need to send people interstate, if you need to do particular setups for trade shows, if you need to have certain merchandise, etc. So just making sure that they actually pay off at the end of the day with the number of leads or whatever outcome it is, whether it's brand awareness that you get through is really important. Affiliates, so essentially these are comparison sites. Finder.com is a particularly big one, so we find them really effective to work with. Evidently, one of the learnings that we found was just making sure that our sales team were aware of the types of people that come through these particular sites. So you do get quite a different audience. When you advertise on Google and Facebook, you could potentially be getting people who are a little more ready to choose your brand, whereas with affiliates, they might be still kind of looking around, just working out what their choices are going to be. So they're we say that they're at the earlier stage of the marketing funnel, as I described before. So making sure that the sales team are aware, making sure that they have ideas of how to actually talk to those people and get them across the line is super important. And lastly, from a Facebook perspective, so lots of different insights from Facebook over my many years in marketing. I just thought I'd throw a few things out there which I thought might be useful for you. One of the things, and again, it's a test and learn thing. I can't tell you exactly what to do on Facebook. A, I don't work there, I'm not the expert, but B, it does tend to be different for every business. But what I would say is that there are certain things that you can test and you can see what works for you. So from a Facebook perspective, there's definitely room to test whether broad targeting, so essentially going after lots and lots of people, or being really, really specific works better for your business. So that's one of the things I would test. Allowing enough time on Facebook as well. So it's easy to just go, oh, just do a quick test. What happens then, every time you put new creative on Facebook, it actually resets the algorithm. So you do need to give it time to actually learn and then be able to perform. So rather than just doing it quickly and then pulling it if it doesn't work, just give it a little bit of time. And then just be clear on your objectives as well. So I think this is the main one. Are you trying to, again, I mentioned before, are you trying to drive traffic to your website, or are you actually trying to drive inquiries via a lead form? Because they're two different things. And if you are trying to drive traffic to your website, what actually happens to that traffic? Does it convert? Do you get what you need out of it? So that's just a really quick snapshot of Tyro, what I do there, and what we've learnt from our marketing, I guess, what I've learnt from my marketing efforts at Tyro, but also throughout the years. And yeah, look forward to any questions very soon.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was super interesting, and it's so great that you're willing to share what's working, what's not working for you. That's what I love about these events, that we, businesses helping other businesses. And very soon we'll be bringing on our 2 Sydney businesses to ask questions, and we'll be looking at how do you drill down some of those ideas and apply them for much smaller businesses as well. So I'm now going to introduce Andrew McCarthy, who is Global Head of Sales at Freelancer.com. So Andrew is going to do a 10-minute presentation on the next part of the funnel, which is, sales. And prior to Freelancer, I think it's important to note that Andrew was also running the B2B business for LinkedIn in Australia and New Zealand. And so some of your learnings are from Freelancer, some from LinkedIn, and you've been very generous to put together a presentation. So I'll hand to you, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. It's a privilege. I tell you what, looking outside today at Sydney, if the weather is any indication of the future, I think we're in for a bright 2021. I'm excited to learn from all the conversation today as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. I assume everyone can see this? Yes, you're great. Thank you. Great. Perfect. Thank you. So a mentor of mine once said, Andrew, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what the audience takes out. So I'm going to try and tilt the scales in our direction today. Let you know what I think the 3 things I hope you can take out. The first thing is a focus on customer value. The second thing is the who, the what, and the how of sales. And the third thing is understanding that your online presence is now your digital handshake. But before we go into the presentation, I want to talk about some numbers. I saw these numbers come out last week from Microsoft, and at the bottom 2 right-hand corner actually really blew me away. The first is that 40.6 billion more emails were sent in February 2021 than February 2020. I'm not sure if you're in the same boat, but I felt like I got a lot of emails in February 2020. So 40 more billion emails out there just means that our customers are getting a lot of messages coming to them each day. Again, their attention is becoming more difficult. The other thing that blew me away is Microsoft, their VC function called Teams, spoke about 148% increase in time on that platform. So that means that if you spent 1 to 2 hours on a video conferencing solution in February 2020, you're spending 3 to 5 hours on it now. So our time poor and customers that are getting a lot of messages coming to them, becoming harder to engage. And when I look at these numbers, I do get a bit of anxiety. It does make me get stressed. But I always remember that at the end of the day, our customer is still human. They're still a person. And there's still an opportunity to understand who they are, what they care about, and how best we can get in contact with them. And so I'm going to go through today and talk about B2B sales in these 3 buckets. Who is the customer? What do they care about? And how you can get in contact with them. And I think if you think about the process in this method, you can set yourself up for success. So starting off with who. So a lot of time when we talk to people, who is your customer? They might say it's this organization or this customer, this business inside this organization. But I think we need to go deeper than that. I want to look at who inside the business is making decisions. Start thinking about what is their personal appetite for change if you were in a revolutionary business. Start thinking about what actually interests them, what they're doing in the broader space. Are they working from home? Are they working remote? Are they working hybrids? What's actually happening in their world that can really help you dial in on who they are personally and professionally and start understanding how you can deliver value. I think a really good way to start here is look at your current customers. So who are the best customers that you'd like to clone? And go through, ask questions about not only what's their job title or what's their company, but what is their appetite for risk? What sort of things are they doing online? There's a real good way we can start to look at people's online identity to understand who is actually the right customer for me, better understand how to get after them. The second is what do they care about? So as more information has come online, there's also an opportunity for salespeople to learn more. If we think about all the touch points we have annual reports for bigger organizations. We have LinkedIn profiles for people across the business.
their company websites, Twitter profiles of people at the organization, annual reports or industry reports if they're in a bit larger organization. And so this helps us really get a feel for what's happening in their world and be able to deliver customer value. A quick story here is I was working with a very large retailer last week, and I had a meeting with one of the chief technology officers. And so I did some research before and looked at what he was trying to do in that organization, a lot about agile developments and moving to a more flexible workforce. The other side, I also looked at his LinkedIn profile and Twitter profile and saw that he was an avid cricket fan. And that's something that I am as well. And so as we were starting off the conversation, I was able to just say, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and Twitter profile and saw that you like cricket. That's something I like as well. And a lot of those personal things you got in face-to-face meetings where you could start walking to a coffee shop or a room or an office and start to understand what this person might be interested in. We're able to get these data points and validations through their online presence as well. Now, lastly, how do you get in contact? So LinkedIn speaks a lot about common connections being really powerful. It was a stat that you're 7 times more likely to respond to a message if it comes from someone you know, like, and trust. But I want to start thinking of this broadly inside your organization. I promise you there are connections inside your company that you're not aware of that might be someone's cousin, brother, someone they went to school with, someone they worked with a previous organization, who may be inside the organizations your team trying to get into. I had a great story from my time at LinkedIn where I was working with one of Australia's largest banks, and one of the executives there had a number 1 account they were trying to get into that year. Their goal is to build deeper relationships in this number 1 account. And they did not realize that the person they sat next to in a cross-functional meeting every second Wednesday was the CEO's son. And there are these sort of serendipitous moments where you happen to walk in and I can't believe that you knew who, or I can't believe that common connection was there. I didn't know that you guys went to university together or whatever it might be. But there are all these connections online. And if we start looking at LinkedIn profiles, we can start to see not only your connections, but also who the connections of other people in your company are. We start looking at who people follow on Twitter. Maybe they're following people of interest. It might be that it doesn't have to be an actual like a physical connection. It also might be that you both have an interest in Oprah Winfrey, and she said something really interesting recently that was relevant to the conversation. You could bring that in. Start looking for these common connections and things that can help you build that rapport and trust is really valuable. And online has a plethora of information around this. So after you've thought through that, the who, the what, and the how, or you also start thinking about your own online presence, because your LinkedIn profile or your Twitter profile or a public-facing profile is now your digital handshake. And the same way that you would walk over to someone in a conference room, smile, present well, put out your hand, shake their hand, that's now happening online. And think through looking at your profile as, what does my customer see when they look at my profile? I was talking to a great leader recently, and she was talking about one of her top sales reps. And we're looking at that sales rep's profile and saw that they were a quota crusher and the world's best negotiator written on the profile. And we were talking through about, okay, you had a great meeting and then you go and check out their profile afterwards, and I read that they're the world's best negotiator. Suddenly you might feel slimed, or you might feel like you've lost that trust. So start thinking about your LinkedIn profile or your Twitter profile as your reputation, not your resume. It's the point that you can talk about how you can deliver customer value, not necessarily set yourself up for the next job. So now I want to talk a bit about Freelancer as well. As we're talking through all of those ideas and the great presentation from Lisa before on channels, there might be a whole bunch of things you want to get going with. You might want to create some Twitter content, some Facebook content. You might want to do a new website. You might want to have some new things that you want to take to market. Well, Freelancer is a place we want to help you on that journey. We're the world's largest marketplace for jobs with 51 million people. We have some amazing people across different skill sets. We have Harvard grads, people who have been won best-selling authors, people who have worked on productions like House of Cards, people who have masters of data science. And these people have amazing skills. And so as you start to think through this new content you might want to create, I'd really welcome you to look at Freelancer as an option to help you with that. There's some amazing talent out there that can help you do things like brand or websites for really, really competitive prices. In that case, $50 for the website design. So it's a great platform to start. Finally, if anyone wants to follow up with questions, I'm always looking to build great relationships in Sydney and business and tech ecosystem. Feel free to go to my LinkedIn profile. But I also wrote a post on how to sell in a work from home world that has some more tips and tricks that I've worked through with LinkedIn and also my current company to help all people be better and thrive in B2B sales in 2021. That's me. Back to you, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Lisa. We have now brought on, we've now invited 2 Sydney business owners to bring some questions to you for how they can apply some of what they've learned from you today to their own businesses, and some of the kind of business to business sales and marketing questions that they've been grappling with in their roles. We have chosen one business, which is a tech startup selling to small businesses, and another business, which is a migration agency. So in the kind of law firm, firm type of business or consulting type of business that would be selling to a different type of business customers, just to give you a kind of breadth of the types of questions that Sydney businesses that are here today might be wanting to ask. So first I'm going to introduce Jennifer Line from HeyU. So Jen runs partnerships at HeyU, which is the app for ordering coffee. Just to disclose, I am one of the founders of HeyU, although I haven't worked there for a long time. I did work with Jen many, many years ago, but Jen is there now running partnerships. And Jen's going to introduce what her challenges are at HeyU, what they're looking to do, and she's got questions she's going to fire to Lisa and Andrew. Over to you, Jen.
Great. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Really nice to meet you, Lisa and Andrew. Got a lot out of your presentation, so thank you for sharing some really good insights there. And I'm delighted to be able to pick your brains on some of our B2B challenges that we're facing at the moment. So thanks for the introduction, Rebecca. Yes, my name is Jennifer Line. I'm the head of partnerships at HeyU. We are, for those of you who don't know, we are Australia's #1 order ahead platform for coffee and food. So we save close to 1 million Australians time on placing their orders for their coffee and food before they get to the venue, so that it's ready when they get there. They could swing by, pick it up, really streamlined VIP service, saving a lot of people time. And then on the business side of it, we help cafe owners, restaurant owners to streamline their operations. So it's helping them maximize the throughput during those peak hours, helping them to run promotions to new and existing customers, say for off-peak hours. They use us to run their digital loyalty programs like the buy 9, get 1 free. And then just in general to provide the best possible service to their customers, like a streamlined, easy, convenient service. So I love what I do because we are supporting local businesses and we're providing a valuable service to the community. It's also handy that my hair matches the brand. My first question is for you, Lisa. It's around educating the target market. So the biggest barrier for us isn't competition. It's more around helping business owners maybe that are less tech savvy to see that they need our product versus the traditional old way of queuing up, ordering at the till, that kind of thing. So our partners that work with us, they use HeyU to be more efficient and to make more money. And cafes that come on board, they see an uplift in sales once they adopt HeyU, but it's like quite a lengthy process sometimes to convince them that mobile ordering is a thing that they need. So what kind of ideas can you give a business like ours to educate the market around needing mobile ordering?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jennifer. Great question. And handy branding with your hair as well. I'm glad my hair doesn't match our brand because otherwise it'd be blue. I don't think it would suit me. But so yeah, I guess from that perspective, education is definitely important because you're going to need to get across those messages. You're going to need to get across those data points, and you do have really great data points. Like, it does actually make a difference to businesses. I guess it's just testing. Again, I'm really all about the test and learn. It's just about testing all of the different channels that you have available to you and what's the best way for probably the least amount of effort, depending on your resources, or the least amount of money, depending on your budget, as to what's going to work effectively for you. So some of the things, so testimonials, I'm sure you're probably doing anyway, work really well. So once you have another business that's very similar to the cafe shop down the road that says, look, we did it and we got this amount of benefit, whether that's through a video, a really simple video, we do a lot of those, whether it's just through images. We've actually, a really simple one was actually just taking a photo of the business and then getting a quote from them as well. So rather than doing the full scale production, that can work really well, because then they know, you know, it has worked genuinely for someone else. It's not you saying it. Trade publications, whether you've tried those with Bean Scene, we've had a bit of success with that. There's lots of paid content options as well. So making sure that you have different channels such as Taboola, Outbrain, Facebook for blog posts, just making sure you test all of those. You know, what's the best way to actually disseminate the content to the audience. Word of mouth, super important as well. So maybe member get member might be something, whether you can, you know, pay businesses a small reward or give them a small benefit or a discount on your service. You might do all of these things, I don't know. PR, thought leadership, by using some of your own data as well. So if you can actually commercialize your data and give it to journalists, they love that stuff. And then you can get free advertising. But yeah, plenty of different things. It's just testing which ones work for you and which ones you have time for.
That's great. Thank you so much. You have got a good list of things to work through for us there. And I love the idea of just the photo. It doesn't have to be the whole video, like a photo and that testimonial. I think that's right. That's
probably, we're just short on time, so I'm just going to ask if we do a little succinct just on the questions and probably the answers.
Oh, yes, sorry.
We'll get to Joanne as well. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so my next question for Andrew is around driving inbound leads. We used to do a lot of face-to-face and walk-in directly to the cafes and restaurants. So obviously we're gearing more towards phone sales now. It's a lot more scalable. So what kind of advice do you have around driving more inbound leads for a business like ours?
Yeah, great question. So I know to sink down to, but I actually used your product this morning. I was getting off the ferry here and I had to get up to my office quickly, and I wanted to dial ahead. I wanted to sort of use the app to order my piccolo and pick up on the way through. And it's without question, I would not have gone to that coffee shop if it wasn't for them being on Hey You. I would have gone somewhere else. Yeah, and so when I'm thinking about the answer here, all business owners want to do one of three things. They want to make money, they want to save money, they want to reduce risk. And so I think when we can, in B2B sales, it's a lot of it's about storytelling and telling the story that they can really connect with, that can help them understand how they're going to make money, how they're going to save money, how they're going to reduce risk. And so once you get a real clear picture on what that story is, and the story I mentioned before this morning, I'm sure you've got lots of them, but that's a real clear example in my mind of a customer that they wouldn't have got, who they wouldn't have had to make that money because they would have gone somewhere else if they couldn't order off the ferry and walk past. I think then thinking about where are these coffee owners congregating online? Are there certain forums or conferences they're involved in? Can you get involved in those conversations? Can you educate? Can you help them out? One last thing to think about when you're in these conversations is no one likes someone that walks up to them and starts pitching straight away. It's like you go to a conference store, they turn up and they go, hi, like, here's my product, do you want to buy? And so I think engaging in the conversation, adding value, thinking what challenges are they looking to come, are they facing, and how can we actually help address those challenges? And once you actually provide those solutions, they naturally think, oh, I want to know more about that organization, which actually help with that inbound opportunity. The last piece is just idea on LinkedIn is one of the most clicked linked on LinkedIn is who's viewed my profile. And so I think when you engage with people on LinkedIn, you can actually look at inbounds to your profile, the people who have viewed your profile, as small indicators of who might have read your content or seen your content or been interested in it, and use that as a way to sort of reach out in a warm, friendly way that shows how you're focused on delivering customer value. But I love the product. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's really, really helpful. Is there time for another question, Rebecca?
Yes, one more question. So we've just go straight into the question.
Okay, great. So my final question, Lisa, is around enterprise sales. So we normally in the past have sold to individual cafes and restaurants, but it's going to make a big difference to our business when we're sort of, bringing on businesses with 20 to 50 stores at a time. So how do we think differently about the approach to individual versus enterprise? Would be really helpful.
Good question. I think for me, the main thing is just the length of time. Like you acknowledged, it actually does take longer for those enterprise sales to actually come through. Like it can differ even from a couple of weeks to a couple of months or even a couple of years. So it's just investing the time and making sure that you're constantly investing in, as Andrew was kind of alluding to, just investing in relationships really. And how can you be memorable in those relationships? I think Andrew gave some really great tips as to how you can actually be memorable, how you can actually make a connection. One of the other things is a really obvious thing, but basic group deals, making sure that there are group deals out there for everyone who comes on board. And then the other point that I would make is it depends on how the enterprise is set up. Sometimes we find it can be with one business, well, the head office essentially making the decision and they implement the product for everybody, or it could be you manage to get an in with a certain business and then you need to make that work really well and then you can actually convince everyone else. In the latter, it's a case of, like I said, making it work really well and then getting in with the head office to use their email lists or to attend. A lot of the time they have conferences for their particular franchise group or something like that. So it does depend on the situation, but patience, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much. That's been really helpful. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks for the questions.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring on Joanne now. So Joanne is the owner of Kite Union Migration, so a migration agency supporting foreign workers and businesses who are looking to employ foreign workers. So Joanne, I'm just going to ask you if you could briefly describe what you've been doing to date and then go into you've got 3 questions. And the focus of this part of the webinar is for businesses like yours that are, maybe firms or agencies or consultants, smaller businesses that are looking to grow.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. That was really interesting. I could spend another couple of hours listening to what you have to say. I'm a registered migration agent, have a practice that we've been running for 4 years. We're 4 people, and we basically help people to get visas to come to Australia. That's a good summary. But what I would like to focus on today is the area of corporate immigration. So helping employers with employing foreigners in Australia. It's always a challenge to get people to work for you, but also when employers employ foreigners, even if they're not sponsoring them, they employ student visa holders or working holiday visa holders. We have a service that we offer which helps employers keep compliant with the migration regulations when they're employing foreigners, because generally people check at the beginning when they're employing somebody whether they've got work rights, but they don't carry on checking. And that's a problem because sometimes the visas can be cancelled, expired, and the employee doesn't necessarily tell their employer. So that service I'd like to really promote and grow our corporate immigration side of the business, and really wanting help on that. We do a lot of business networking. I'm a member of BNI, Business Networking International, and that's been fantastic. So word of mouth is great for this area. But technology is definitely an area that I'm not expert in and would love your advice. So for example, one of the questions that I have is testing Google, Facebook, how that can attract customers to our business. And I've thought about it in the past, but don't want to be spending money when I don't really know what I'm looking at and looking for. Perhaps that's Lisa. Is that something that you could help with?
Yeah, sure. And I think I will refer to Andrew as well, because one of the things that I would say is that definitely get someone, I personally recommend get someone who knows what they're doing as well from a digital marketing perspective. So yes, Google and Facebook have lots of, and it's great, they've put out lots of guides and information for businesses to be able to figure it out themselves, but I would still recommend getting someone who knows what they're doing. I'm sure, Andrew, you have lots of people that you could offer on Freelancer, is that correct? Who can do all of the digital marketing work?
Lisa, you're doing a better sales job than I am. I appreciate that. But yes, like most of them, and Joanne, chat to me as well afterwards, and I can help you with that as well. But we have lots of great digital marketing consultants.
That'd be great.
I think Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in there and say, like, one of the things is you as the business owner will know more about your product than everyone else as well. So you're going to need to, like, for example, I'm in marketing. I would have no idea about your industry. I would need your help to inform me what it is about what you do, who you're trying to talk to, essentially just give them a brief and then let them run. You probably just want a bit of an idea as well, just what I was saying with regards to Facebook, just a bit of an idea of what you're trying to do. Are you trying to get people to just be aware of you? Are you trying to get people to fill out a form? Are you trying to tell people that it's super important that, you know, they follow the regulations on an ongoing basis? What are the goals that you're trying to achieve? And then making sure that you pass that on super clearly to the person, the freelancer, so that they know what you're trying to achieve, and just checking in on it. And also looking at a cost per lead is what we call it in marketing as well. So how much are you willing to pay to get someone doing whatever the action is that you want them to do? So it could be $10, it could be $50, it could be $100. It depends on what you want. Or it could be a cost per application. Like, I want someone to actually come to me and commit, and that's the way I want to measure it. So just getting those objectives really clear and using professionals.
No, that sounds great, and obviously Andrew's services I would definitely, or Andrew's colleague services I would definitely take up. Thank you for that. Another question that I have is, I have a website and I'm very proud of my website, and I'd like to get more inquiries through it. We do have an inquiry form on the website. Other than digital marketing, how else could I potentially get clients to and customers to my site?
I can jump in here. So firstly, I think it's amazing business you're running. And I was thinking through the framework before about make money, save money, reduce risk. And I really think when you spoke about the compliance piece as well, that really focused on that reduced risk piece. So there's a really interesting story you can tell here, which is around how you can help organizations understand what they don't know. And I think a lot of people, me included, and Lisa mentioned before, weren't aware of those different risks that are present. So I think that there's a great opportunity here to look at the target customers you're focused on, and then see if you can tell stories around the risk and the opportunity, and what could make sure they understand what happens if anything goes wrong or things go right, and use other people's testimonials, and think about ways in which you can seed the conversation inside those communities, and make sure there's a call to action back to either your websites or your email list or your LinkedIn profile, or whatever it might be, that can help understand sort of who's seen that. But I think when I'm thinking about the way to reach this audience, I think about it in terms of who are those people, like what do they actually care about? And then where are they? And how can I tell the story that can help them understand what they might be missing or what they might not know, and lead to that education piece as well. Another idea I was thinking, I think YouTube might be a really interesting place to be able to put some short videos that help articulate the story and the challenge. And that could be a way to get messages out where people might not be aware of. The challenge you're going to have is that people aren't necessarily searching for this yet. They're not looking for videos on compliance for international workers, but if there's ways for you to think about how you can tie that in from adding value to their workforce and help them understand the challenges, that could be a good way to think about it.
Thank you. Something to think about, definitely. Thank you.
I think just to add to that, what you're saying, Andrew, what I would also suggest is contextual targeting. So all of that content, definitely important. Where you place it, super important as well. So like Andrew said, if you can place it in groups or just areas of relevance, then you're going to talk to your customers much more easily, rather than just kind of putting it out there and hoping that they see it. One other thing, I know it is digital marketing, but what we haven't spoken about yet is search engine optimization. So not sure how much of that you're doing, but even really, big, very useful thing to be doing. Again, would require a marketing expert from Freelancer, free plug. I'm not getting paid, I promise. But search engine optimization, like there are super simple things you can do, like you've got to be really careful with how it's done, but you can have links from your site to other sites and vice versa. They can link to your site, but they have to be relevant. If they're irrelevant, Google will penalize you and your ranking will drop. If they're relevant, your domain authority will increase and you will actually rank higher in Google from an organic perspective. So that's outside of the paid advertising. So there is a cost. It is digital marketing, but again, search engine optimization is something I definitely recommend, and doing some keyword research and making sure that you're ranking for the right things.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a lawyer, so it's definitely not my area of expertise. So thank you, that's really useful. I have one more question if there's time. I get referrals, word of mouth, as I mentioned, either from the businesses, my existing clients, and also their employees. And I want to encourage that word of mouth and that ongoing referring. Have you seen any referral program work to encourage this, or do you have any tips on how to encourage customers to recommend new customers?
Lisa, I'll go. Lisa can go from the macro level in terms of the broader piece. I can go from much more of a sales approach, which is a way in which when you've had a great interaction with a customer, ask them at the end, is there anyone else that you think we could work with? Anyone else you think get value? I think it's a really underutilized thing in sales, particularly when it comes from like a great place of looking to help as well. There's a chance when you've earned the right in a conversation just to ask the question. And sometimes if you don't ask, you don't know. So from a sales point of view, I think it's a great way just to make sure it's seeded into those conversations. The other thing is when you do get those referrals, I think it's depending on the scope and size, but I think that it's always important to follow up with people and let them know like the referral turned into an opportunity. Just thinking from a personal level, if you've made an introduction and then you never hear from that person again, you often just think, how did that work out? But I think there's a really good chance to like have another touch point from this is more like one-to-one sales as opposed to Lisa's view of the macro picture. But I think opportunity to let people know and also thank them for those referrals. At the end of the day, we're all human, we're all people, and finding ways to deliver great customer value and then have that to be passed to their friends, something they naturally want to do as well.
I guess just to add from it, so all of those things are super important anyway. The only thing I would add is potentially considering incentives, depending on whether that's a possibility or not. Usually it is cash, but it can be other things as well. It could be a gift card, it could be some kind of service that you can provide, some kind of thought leadership piece, some article that you have restricted access to, whatever it is. That might be a nice thing for both sides. So if you actually offer, so it's essentially member get member, but if you offer a reward to both sides, that could definitely help as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
And just reminding people because they forget. So it could be if you put out a newsletter or whatever way you have to communicate with your customers, just like Andrew said, asking them at a particular point in time, but maybe it's that constant reminder because it's just not on their mind. It's not the first thing that they think of.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks for the questions.
Thanks for the questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Lisa. I know that referrals is a great point. I know a friend of mine, just a side story, has a kind of elite dating agency. And every time I refer someone, she sends me a really nice bottle of wine. And I cannot think of how many people I've referred to her dating agency. So just like something like a bottle of wine or something like that can be really nice. It feels quite personal as well. Just on the Google, I know there's some questions around Google and SEO and how do you do that, also around Facebook advertising. I just wanted to point out that the next series of Reboot, which we're going to announce very soon, is going to be focused on how to implement. And so we actually have someone from Google coming in to give us kind of like an overview of how to start Google and what do you need to know, what can you do yourself, what do you need an expert for, and same with Facebook, same with LinkedIn, and a few others. That is going to be starting in May, so watch out for those events. So we're now going to go to questions from the audience. Please keep the questions coming. There's questions from all parts of the funnel, but I want to start with the top of the funnel, which is like attracting customers, to your website that are already warm leads. We've talked about content marketing, I guess, through telling stories. I just wanted to clarify a few things, like because I know we talked about telling stories, selling the risk or the, what it is that you do, educating the market. But just to clarify how to do that, is it blog posts, podcasts, online events, real events, ebooks? Like, is there anything in particular that you recommend or that you think people should look at? And how would they even start to think about what is the right way to attract customers at the top of the funnel?
Do you want to go? Do you want me to go? Andrew?
Whoever and just jump in, whoever wants to think.
Look,
so that
I'll tee you up here, which I think that's the most important thing is alignment between sales and marketing, and make sure that people are saying the same message. So marketing have a great insight on what message is going to resonate, and they're going to go out to the market with that message. But before I pass to Lisa how to do that, I think that having a sales team who are out there talking to customers, making sure they're saying the same words and the same keywords and the same messages, and they're focused on the same customer value is going to be really important. But I'll let Lisa talk about how to do it from a broader perspective.
So just one thing is, just imagining you're a very small business, maybe you're 1 or 2 or 3 people. If you're thinking, hey, what is it that I try first in order? How do I educate the market? What's the first thing I should do?
Yeah, and that was going to come into what I was going to say. It's about how much time you have and how much resource you have. So obviously things like ebooks, podcasts, I would say they're probably going to take a lot longer to actually produce and potentially be a little bit more costly. You're going to need a designer, you're going to need someone to actually record it. Whereas something like a blog post, most people can write. And if you can't, I'm sure you have a friend who can, or someone else, or Freelancer, free post again for you. So I would say start with those things, the simpler things. Again, like I said, testimonials are really good content. You could pretty much take your iPhone these days probably and just film someone and just say, how have you been finding our business, and put together something that's not particularly too tricky to put together. Again, you can find someone who can do that for you if you can't edit it yourself, or you can just take a photo and put a quote out there. It's just about getting the messages out there in the quickest way that are going to make the biggest difference, and test it as well. See what actually works.
Yeah, cool.
I have one other idea. I just think is I had a friend of mine who was really successful at writing handwritten notes. A lot of times people think like handwritten notes is how like manual is that, but he'd block out a day and he would figure out exactly who his customers were, and he would write them handwritten notes. And his response rates and his conversion rate off that went through the charts, because no one's getting handwritten notes. Everyone's getting a lot of messages, but that really cut through.
Cool, thank you. I think the message there is test. Maybe tune into what you're good at, or what you've got time for, and then test something. Yeah. Okay, question from Sarah Cohen. So I'm a consultant selling B2B. The awareness part of my funnel has grown steadily in the past 12 months, as has consideration, but I'm struggling to get from consideration to engagement. So potential customers are keen and get engaged, but they're postponing the next step. So they're asking, can they have more time? Do you have any tips for how you maintain contact with them without feeling like you're intruding? So how do you make sure they don't drop out of the funnel altogether? And how can you move the dial from consideration to engagement?
Big question. Wow. That is, this is where it starts to get complicated in marketing, I think. I would ask, really. You can send out email. So for me, it sounds like a simple lead nurturing campaign in marketing terms, which is just, regularly at whatever interval getting in touch with them and giving them relevant news updates or potential facts that they didn't know, or just sharing a video. It could be informal, depending on how, whether it's a large scale customer base that you have, or whether it's kind of more smaller. You could either do that through LinkedIn channels, you could do that through your emails. But I would probably ask them as well, and just, send out an email and say, are you happy for me to send you a few things here and there, just to educate you, or to give you a few tips here and there. And keep them warm. But I guess for me, it'd be why are they dropping out? I would really want to dig into that and find out, is it that the next step is too hard? Like, can you break it down into smaller steps? Is it that they need to know something before they can actually commit? Like, what is that? And then try and again, test a few things as to how you can get them to overcome it, or use previous customer examples of how you got them past that stage.
Cool. Thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Andrew? Particularly, I was just thinking in terms of you're, expert at kind of sales funnel, and also in the room when you do get that meeting, how can you, essentially close the deal? Do you have any tips?
Yeah. So I think always focusing on customer value and what they're trying to achieve is the most important thing. And so if you come across like you're trying to close the deal, sometimes from your perspective, you sometimes push them the other way. People are attracted to things that aren't necessarily takes them to the door, but things that are there. So I think that one of the best things you can do is really focus on what are they trying to achieve, and be specific. Like, are they trying to grow their revenue by 10% this year? Are they trying to open a new shop? are they trying to break into new industry or territory? The more specific you can be, the better. We'll not get down to like very, very, very specific in terms of what they're trying to achieve. A good way to understand that is look at industry trends. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a big accounting firm, and they told me that audit was becoming commoditized, and I wanted to get into higher value consultancy work. And so they were talking about ways they could go up the channel. That's a very specific challenge for them. They're trying to go up to different parts of the organization, and so being very specific is helpful. And then focus on what is blocking them from getting there at the moment, and then focus on how your product can actually help them get over that channel. So I'd focus on those three things. Firstly, customer value, like what are they trying to achieve? The more specific you can be to them personally, the better. What is blocking them from getting there at the moment? What are the things that you both agree on that if they could solve X, Y, or Z, they could unlock what they're trying to achieve? And then talk about how your solution can actually help them get across that bridge or unblock that challenge or resolve that conflict that can actually help them get to where they want to get to. And that I find really helps that last bit of the sales process, which is helping themselves get across the line.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. That was super useful. I was just mentally thinking through my own sales process for my own business in my head as you were saying that, and thinking, how do I ask for the blockers and what might the blockers be? So thank you. And Lisa, thank you for your ideas as well. So I guess I want to we'll wrap up now. It is 1 o'clock. So thank you to Lisa Vitaris from Tyro. Thank you to Andrew McCarthy from Freelancer.com. Thank you to Jen from HeyU and Joanne from Kite Union Immigration for being so willing to be open with your challenges and share your questions today. This is the last in our series of Reboot 2. We will have another series, Reboot 3, starting in May, and the details of that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. But as I said, Reboot 3 is going to be focused on implementation. So we've got an event on email marketing, we've got an event on how to make your online store awesome and effective, we've got an event on Google, we've got an event on Facebook, and it's going to be great. So I hope to be seeing you in the next series. If you'd like to be featured as a case study yourself, I know Jen, for example, has been attending many of these events and has been asking me if she can come on and ask questions herself, particularly of this one. Please email the City Business email address, which we'll add in the chat now as well. If there is something in particular you'd like to learn or be featured amongst the rest of the community. I want to really thank the City of Sydney for hosting or for putting on these events. We've had amazing feedback. We've had events where we've had 800 people registering to attend. Today, I know we had 250 businesses registered to attend. Videos of all the events go onto the City of Sydney website. We'll email you a link to that video later in the week, which will also take you to all the videos of all the other events that we've run so far. We're getting heaps of replays on the website, so please do check out some of those other events. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you again to everyone just for attending and for being part of our community over the past 6 weeks. I hope to see you back in just over a month's time. I am Rebecca Campbell, and yeah, thanks City of Sydney, and we'll see you soon. Bye.